This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live, reporting from Palm Beach, and telling you that now at 79 years old, soon to be 80, this is the second time in my life I've been fired. First one was my father. The second one is not my father. My father didn't tell lies. Well, I was fired by my father, which you may be more interested in, because he felt that I was too impatient a bartender because I would get angry at the drunks. It's a very bad thing in a bar if you get angry at drunks, right? I mean, you lose business. My father had the patience of a saint. And and my father used to say, just to start it off on a very light note, there are three kinds of drinkers, or drunks, or whatever you want to call it. One, we have the maudlin drunk. The maudlin drunk is the guy who comes into the bar and says, "Give me a scotch. My wife hates me. My children can't stand me. Even my girlfriend hates me. Everybody, my boss is awful." And all you do with him is you just keep saying, "Oh, things are going to be fine." He's perfectly harmless. Second guy that comes in is the happy-go-lucky, I'm the funniest guy in the world, who doesn't have a sense of humor when he's not drunk, and he really doesn't have a sense of humor when he is drunk, but he thinks he does. Let me tell you another one, pal. Let me tell you another one, pal. Jackie Gleason used to play both of these guys in skits on the Jackie Gleason show, which we'll dig up for you sometime. And one was Ralph the Loudmouth. He'd run into the bar and he'd slap Art Carney on the face and push his face into the drink every time he'd come in. It was like a funny. And so that's the funny drunk. Third drunk, he would call I would say pugilistic drunk, because I went to college. My father would say the Joe Louis drunk. He can fight everybody in the bar. Not when he's sober, but as he gets drunk, he starts it. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? Did you interrupt me the other night? Aren't you the guy that interrupted me the other night? Well, come on. Hey, kid, give me another drink. And I'm not going to pay for it. My father said, you go nuts when they come in, and you throw them out. Here's how you handle them. Oh, don't have one other drink. Have three. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, let's fight. You take them, you pick them up, throw them out, put them in a garbage can, and roll them down the hill. And you get rid of them. But you don't have to fight with them. Just get the pugilistic drunk so drunk he can't find anybody to hit. So I was fired there for that. This one is a little different. This one I was fired because I violated a policy of WABC. Now, those of you who listen to me on WABC or this show are going to find it very, very strange to believe that there was such a policy. It begins this way. It begins well. It's from John Catsimatidis, who's the head of the Red Apple Media. It begins with Dear Rudy. It doesn't end that way, but it begins with Dear Rudy. This letter serves to remind you that you are prohibited from engaging in conversations relating to the 2020 presidential election on your program's broadcast on WABC. Quote, the station. Lawyers love to do that. And otherwise in your capacity as an agent of the station. Now, it doesn't say I'm prohibited from saying a stolen election, or it says I can't talk about the presidential election at all. So this is a serious letter. It's written by a lawyer, and the First Amendment letter, you have to take every word seriously, right? You got to give it meaning. There's such thing as being overbroad in First Amendment law. So this isn't overbroad, it's sweeping. I cannot talk. I cannot engage in conversations relating to the 2020 presidential election. Well, that would be interesting, but it suggests and says that I'm being reminded of a policy. I never heard of such a policy. This is the first time I've heard of such a policy. They claim they sent the policy out in January. But I actually signed a special letter with them, 3-4 years ago when I came back. And they wanted me to really prohibit what I said, well, I'm not going to come back. And we finally agreed there'd be one thing I wouldn't talk about. because my lawyers actually advised me not to do that. And that was Dominion, because Dominion was in the middle of suing me for some ridiculous, like $2 billion. I mean, I wish I could negotiate with them, if I had $2 billion, but I don't. But my lawyers said, the case is right in heavy litigation right now. Doesn't cost you anything to agree to that. The rest of it, tell them go to hell. So I didn't tell them to go to hell. I was very nice. I just crossed out everything else and kept that part in it. And so did Dr. Maria Ryan. I did the same thing to her document because she co-hosts a Sunday show with me. And unfortunately, she's also been fired, but she's also been treated horribly as a woman, treated horribly as a person, treated horribly as a professional. And I don't know that she wasn't going to leave anyway, because Chad Lopez, the president of the station, creates a very, very hostile work environment. Many women have left. One's on Newsmax, another's independent. We'll see if they'll speak up. But in any event, I'll explain Dr. Maria in a minute. Let me stick with me. So I've never had such a policy. Now, aside from the document where we crossed everything out, you don't need the document. Maybe they destroyed it. Maybe I can't find it. If I didn't talk about the 2020 presidential election, I wouldn't have been on the air for the last 5 years. You watch me. I talk about it every day, every night. I mean, not every day or every night, but it's a substantial part of my show. If there was such a policy, I'd have to be crazy to keep doing it. Or I'd have to say the policy is meaningless. There are policies. I mean, it was against the law for 100 years, and you'd go to jail for adultery, but nobody did, right? So there are policies that are honored in the breach. This wasn't honored in the breach. You could not listen to more than 2 nights of my show and not hear me on WABC and hear me talk about the 2020 election. It could be stealing the election in Pennsylvania. It could be about Wisconsin. It could be about Arizona. I put people on who've written books about the stolen election. I spent a great deal of time on 2,000 Mules. What was 2,000 Mules about, John? It was about election fraud. You didn't fire me then. You didn't fire me 3 weeks ago when I talked about it. Or 5 weeks ago. You think I'm a fool? I'm going to let them know why you fired me. You fired me for 2 reasons. You fired me to interfere in the election because once a Democrat, always a Democrat. And you're sucking up to them, John. And don't tell me you're not. Maybe Father, whatever his name is, it's got you a little worried that they may screw you if Biden wins. And you've always played 2 sides. You got Weiner on. Jesus, I think Weiner's should be on a list. I think when Weiner comes in, the women should be allowed to leave. Right? Didn't you ask me to do a show with Weiner? Mm-hmm. What did I tell you? I didn't say go to hell. I was much nicer than that. I said, no, I would never be on the air with Weiner. Not because he's a Democrat, because of the kinds of things that he did that are sickeningly perverted. So, I mean, you play both sides. I know you play both sides because we want free speech. Right, John? We want free speech. This letter serves to remind you that you are prohibited from engaging in conversations relating to the 2020 presidential election. That's free speech. You give a damn about free speech? I mean, I'm on the side of wanting to speak. You're on the side of wanting to shut me up at a time in which I have financial difficulties. So you're hoping that all I care about is money, like you. You know something, you can take your money and shove it up your, you know what? The way you treated me, you leaked it to the Times while we were discussing it. And you informed my partner, Dr. Maria, by email. I mean, we've worked really hard for your station. We've done everything we've been asked to do. Dr. Maria has been treated like horribly. If she doesn't sue you and that creep of yours, Chad Lopez, for a very, very hostile work environment, she's crazy. And if she doesn't get a couple of other women to do it with her, I'd be surprised. How many have you fired or left you? Think about it, John. So maybe there was a policy, maybe there wasn't a policy. I sure as heck never saw the policy. And it really doesn't matter if there is or isn't a policy, because for the last 3 to 4 years, I've been saying the same things I wanted to say yesterday when you prohibited me from going on. And I'm not even sure I knew what I was going to say yesterday. I just want to be free to tell people the truth. You want to stop me, don't you? Yeah. The Democrat thing has something to do with it. And the fact that the Bidens are really zeroing in now on interference with the 2024 election. And remember, we can go right back to the beginning. The first thing Biden did when he was a candidate is write a letter to the network saying to keep me off. I'm a special target of theirs because I'm the one who revealed the hard drive. I spoke to the Post today, and the nice young lady, I said to her, you didn't find the hard drive. I did, and I gave it to you. And I pretty much had to force you to do it, except for Miranda Devine and Levine and a few other people who had the guts to. I mean, you were, and the Wall Street Journal. The Bidens don't realize who's doing who can really inflict atomic destruction to them. They were going along just fine until Giuliani found the people in Ukraine and explained your admission in front of, what was it, the Atlantic Council or the Council on Foreign Policy, or some group of either knowing communists or people who are too stupid to realize they are. Because they cheered for your bribe. Joe gets up, announces a bribe, and all the morons cheer. Yeah, he says, I told the president of Ukraine, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you won't get your $1 billion. He was shaking him down like he's shaking Israel down right now. That's what gangsters do. He's a gangster. It's 35 years of taking money. He began as a trailer trash little creep, taking little bits with his scummy little brothers. And now he's a world-class thief. Somehow, strangely, President of the United States, even though his family got $21 to $31 million from our biggest enemy, China. Got to be the dumbest, craziest, most dangerous decision to our national security we ever made. It only came about because of the second thing that I produced. The hard drive. Remember that one, Joe? The one that hopefully will sink your little creep son. But you're the one that really should go down, not your son. You're the reason your son is like that. And we could go into big psychological explanation for it, but if there were a choice of you or your son going to jail, you're the guy that should go to jail. You're such a creepy father, you used him as a bag man with some of the biggest criminals in the world. The guy in Ukraine, organized criminal, Russian and Ukrainian, suspected murderer, stole 20 to 30 billion. And got away with it because Joe got bribed to fix the case. That's what it's all about. Joe got somewhere between 8 and 20 million to fix the case. Or was it because Hunter was such an expert on oil and gas that one of the richest guys and one of the crookedest guys and one of the sharpest guys in Ukraine just gave him 8 billion just to have him around smoking crack? Or was it because you fixed the case? And by the way, why don't you turn over all of the transcripts in early February 2020, 3-4 conversations with Poroshenko, the president. Your White House is covering that up as it is covering up evidence about 40 other crimes. Put them out. Put them out and report to jail. 'Cause I know what's on those transcripts. The people that you've persecuted in Ukraine have told me. Not only that, they leaked two parts that kind of give the whole thing away. One thing they leaked is on tape. You and Poroshenko discuss the foreign dealings of your son, who you have lied 50 times and said you never discussed. The Ukrainians have it. Every time Zelensky wants money, he probably plays it for you. And you know what Zelensky tells you? He says, Giuliani has a lot of crap on you. And the pictures of your son, man, what a pervert. Child pornography, Joe? God, you do anything about it? Yeah, but I got all the pictures. Giuliani's just got a few years. I got everything, babes. I got them all. He's got a quarter. I got the other 3/4. Wonder what's in those 3/4. He's got about 40 crimes. I got the rest of them. He's got about 50 million. I probably could take it over 100. You don't think Zelensky shakes him down like that? Zelensky's mentor was another organized criminal in Ukraine, although he was the chief money launderer. He knows where all the money's buried. So you see why they hate me? I brought all of this out in 2018, early enough for you to be prosecuted before you announced for president. And man, you guys started attacking me. You got the FBI to secretly go get my iCloud account. They eventually found nothing. Had to report it to a grand jury. Found no crimes by Giuliani. Gee, maybe we have an honest man somewhere. They won't give me the affidavit. The crooked FBI will not give me the affidavit explaining how they could go and look at my iCloud account, which has to be based on probable cause that I committed a crime. But then they didn't have a crime for the grand jury. What happened to the crime? I mean, I used to investigate crimes. They don't just go, one or two things. You have a deficient affidavit or somebody lied. You don't think I'm entitled to see that? Of course not. I support Trump. I'm not entitled to anything. I'm not even entitled to my job. I'm not entitled to talk about the 2020 election. It doesn't even say here, you can't talk about stolen election. You're prohibited from engaging in conversations relating to the 2020 presidential election. Now, you want to make it even a little more onerous than that? Then they do try to give you a couple examples, right? These specific topics include the legitimacy of the election results. So I can't talk about that. I have to say they're legitimate, even though I know and have an enormous amount of proof, which I've shown you on my show on WABC, that it was stolen. And as I said, promoted very heavily 2,000 Mules, which is all about stolen election. And every other report on stolen election. I have supported and promoted on the station that now says there was a policy against my discussing the election. Now, the Times will believe him, and all the rotten scumbag left-wingers will believe him, but they believe every lie that's told. This is like patently false. You have to be a fool to believe this. Then the second thing I can't discuss are allegations of fraud effectuated by election workers. This refers basically to the two women who sued me and got 145 million. I can't discuss this even though I have videos of their quadruple counting ballots. And even though I have proof that somewhere between the Atlanta Secretary of State and the prosecutor in New York, they doctored the tapes. They presented me with 12 hours of tapes and very deceptively looked like they were complete. But after 3 or 4 days of examining them, I discovered that there were 3 hours missing, which the prosecutor never told me about, or the crooks in Atlanta. So I'm not going to talk about that. doctored tapes. What was it, 17 minutes for Nixon? This is 3 hours. Now you say, well, why 3 hours? Because there were 4 cameras that were recording the same 3 hours. So it's 3 of 12 hours missing, or maybe a little less than that. Ted counted it with, actually, Ted did the counting. Is that about right? Is it a little less than 3 hours?
I would say even less, but it's
Monumental.
significant chunks. And really, the length doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter whether it's 10 minutes or an hour.
No, and it happens to be all in the area of the time in which I delivered, and my other people delivered, incriminating information about these people.
Yeah. And
now they say I can't comment on that because I entered a stipulation in the case on defamation. Well, I did. I entered a stipulation so I wouldn't have to have a trial. The stipulation, which happened in courts all the time, says just for the purpose of the case, can't be used outside of here. It's not an admission in general. It's just to get beyond a trial. Why? Because no way I'm going to get a fair trial in the District of Columbia. It's just a waste of time. 100 J6 people have gone to trial. None of them have been acquitted. You think I would? When I had the stupid little damages trial in which they offered no evidence, they came up with $145 million for women that have never made more than, I don't know, $100,000. How could they have $145 million worth of damage? It's an absurd, ridiculous verdict. By the way, they're saying I can't comment on it because of the stipulation, but I'm on appeal challenging it. What does that mean? I'm going to have to go to the Court of Appeals and not comment on it? Of course I can comment on it. The case isn't completed yet. Oh, and by the way, I have commented on it from the day it happened consistently. And you hosts and reporters have questioned me about it. So where's the policy against that? And that's another reason I'm being fired, because you've already signed documents as part of your court proceedings conceding that the statements you made regarding the election in Georgia were defamatory per se. They are crooked lawyers who seem to be almost plagiarizing the Biden lawyers' similar allegation here. And the Biden lawyers for these 2 women who are middle-class women are a Wall Street law firm paid now about $2-3 million and represented by a friend of Hunter Biden's. So if you think this is a real lawsuit, John, you're living in dreamland. This is a very well-funded lawsuit of, and I'm not the only one. This is a well-funded lawsuit brought against Donald Trump as much as they can, or anybody else. Me. You see what they're doing to Steve Bannon, right? They want to put him in jail. It's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. How many lawyers are being prosecuted of his? Or just how well have they sealed this up? Donald Trump has a gag order. His lawyers have a gag order. Michael Cohen's been shooting his mouth off every day on TikTok for 50 days. Finally, the judge issues, well, not really a gag order. He told the lawyers to make sure that that the client doesn't talk this weekend. Trump, a former president of the United States, and Trump's lawyers, all in good standing, not like me because they suspended me, have a gag order from the judge. A convicted felon is like, oh, please don't say anything this weekend. I'm not going to give you a gag order because you are a convicted liar. And, in New York with Bragg and the Democratic Party and the history of Tammany Hall, we like convicted liars. You're like our kind of guy because that's what makes up the Democrat Party of New York. And that's who puts the judges on the bench. Remember who they're dealing with. I used to put them in jail for a living. I didn't get fired for that. What John Catsimatidis has done is disgraceful. With the pretense that he was building some kind of a First Amendment station, he blew a hole in the First Amendment that's so big you can't even find it. You can't tell somebody not to talk about anything about the 2020 presidential election and tell me that you have a respect for free speech. Isn't the test the following? The good people are the ones who want to speak, and the bad people are the ones who want to stop people from speaking. Because when you stop people from speaking, nobody can really learn about it. But if you let me speak and I'm not telling the truth, you can prove it. And if I am telling the truth, then I'm informing people of things they need to know. And isn't this a hell of a time to stop me from doing what I've been doing for 3.5 years? Just when they may be preparing to steal another election? Isn't this exactly the right time for all of us to pretend that the last election was completely honest and fair? Isn't that going to help them steal the next election, John? Isn't that going to interfere with a fair election here? We have to pretend that that election was flawless. If they succeed in silencing me through you by intimidating you and other people, they're going to have a free run to fix the election. And why didn't they bring it up a year ago? Because it's not close to the election. Let him shoot his mouth off. Nobody does anything anyway. Jordan will have another hearing. Send a letter. Part of the reason that I'm in this problem, and Steve and everybody else, is we've got no support. None. Members of Congress don't give me any support. None. Or any of the others that are being persecuted like this. What the hell have they done for the J6 people? A couple of them, yes, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'll say a few of them have really, really tried. Most of them, gee, don't bother me with that. They all know they're being persecuted. Well, is there anything else? Well, I'm going to take a short break because I have an awfully big surprise that I am absolutely shocked about. And, but this is a good one. This is a good one. We'll be back in a moment, and we're going to have Steve Bannon with, delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. And while we were discussing all of this, in walks Steve Bannon.
I was just wandering through the neighborhood. I heard noise. I wanted to come up here. Thank you.
Wow.
I brought my family. That's the guys clapping off to the side. Thank you.
How are you? Wow.
That's quite unusual. The mayor's audience is still sober. Of course, it's early. First, I want to thank your producer. Last year we had it when I came and dropped by. It was outside.
And you boiled.
What do you mean boiled? It was raining inside my shirt. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we got it. Floridians.
I thought it would all look a little better if we were in here and not. But I do enjoy sometimes doing it outside. I mean, John, this is the letter that I told you. The first paragraph just knocks me for a loop. This letter serves to remind you that you are prohibited from engaging in conversations relating to the 2020 presidential election on your programs.
You are Rudy Giuliani, right? You have been fighting the big steal.
That's
I mean,
what I
it's
took-
like a surprise that Rudy's going to say something about the 2020.
I don't think I talked about anything else on my programs for 3 years.
Did Donald Trump win the 2020 election?
Of course he did. I mean,
Okay, it was stolen by Biden and the Biden regime and in all these states.
and
There's
in
no
my mind,
absolutely no doubt,
and I
doubt.
know-
And you
the
can prove
that
it
I have.
facts, yes. So what's the and you've been talking about this every day.
I've see what you said. I've been saying it for, I don't know, maybe since January 10th or 5th or probably
2021.
Yeah, probably earlier.
You've been on WABC.
All through that time I was on WABC.
WABC, you've been on a 3:00 slot, and you're the #1 show in the 3:00 hour in New York, right? Which is the toughest radio market in the country. And you're the #1 Sunday show in New York with the WABC.
Dr. Ryan, who they
with
also
Dr. Ryan.
fired for absolutely no reason other than vindictiveness.
And they fired you for talking about the 2020 election, the steal that you've been talking about since January 2021. I'm just trying to get the facts right.
Maybe since I first went to argue the case in Pennsylvania. I mean, I was on the air during
That was
time.
November of 2020.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back and you can look at WABC broadcasts, or you can look at my podcast, and there's a whole living history of what happened, of the truck driver bringing the ballots down, the truck driver changing his mind. Now are finding out that the FBI twisted the guy's arm.
Are you wearing makeup?
Yeah, I have a little makeup.
Unbelievable. He gets the good lighting and the makeup. I show up. I look like
Give him some.
No. I insist you not change the lighting. I can tell I'm playing an away game today. Man, Rudy's got makeup on
Just a little bit.
and he's up lit. Okay, that's okay. I know how we go. I know how we roll.
No, wait,
I
wait,
see how we roll here.
Steve. What does uplit mean? I don't know what that part means.
That's up from here, so you look better. You look amazing.
Oh, well, I better. I mean, I'm 79 years old. I just got fired. I mean, I'm like this is the second time in my life I've been fired.
When was the first time? Can I hear?
I was fired by my father as a bartender because I was too impatient with the drunks, and he said that's a very bad thing for a bartender. You can lose a lot of business that way.
So he fired you. How old were you?
I was about 20. I used to work on weekends.
Weren't you fired by a couple of wives? Is that
wow? Now you're getting. Would you get him some damn makeup?
No. I hate being catty. No. How old were you when your father fired you as a bartender?
That must have been 20.
20.
Yeah. And I would get very, very impatient with my father was fabulous.
You know, you were a very young looking guy at that age. You know, seriously, we had hair, even
At 18?
Yeah, but even when you were U.S. attorney, you always looked younger than you were, didn't you think? For a certain time.
Yeah, Fat Tony, you said that on one tape.
He did.
Little,
what did Fat Tony
young
say?
little shit ass writing all those subpoenas. Someday we should whack him. But then he voted against it.
When it came around to
when it came down to it, it was 3-2, and it's one of the elections I won.
Where was your father's bar?
My father's bar was on Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn, in what is now what would be called, what was called Flatbush at the time. If people know Brooklyn, it was right near Kings County Hospital.
Yeah.
At that time, right near Bennett Field, which was an Irish football field. And every Sunday, they would play football at the field, and all the players would change.
Semi-pro football?
Yeah, Irish football. Yeah.
Oh, you mean Irish rules football?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I never played, but as a young kid.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Tough game. Tough people.
Tough.
Roscommon County. So hold it. Did your father have a bouncer in a bar? You were a bartender. Didn't he tell you dad not supposed to be a bouncer too?
Didn't need a bouncer. He was a boxer.
He was a boxer.
Yeah, an excellent one. My father would have been probably, he probably would have been a champ if he didn't have terrible eyesight.
Okay.
So he would take his glasses off and it would reduce.
Yeah, you couldn't wear contact lenses.
General, but it would, So, and also the doctor felt that if he got hit, he could have lost his sight.
60, you got fired at 20, and you've been fired essentially close to your 80th birthday. So 56, almost 60 years between getting fired.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby.
You know, I like being
This
fired.
came as a total surprise.
On this letter, Ted, you want to join?
Did John?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did John Katzmatee sit down and you've known Katzmatee
No, nobody
for 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, nobody called me. No, I just received it.
You didn't sit down and have a chat with him?
No, he wrote me something saying, let's discuss it next week when you come back, when when we have lunch. What do I do between now and next week? So I said, we can't.
Well, he said in the New York Post, the quotes are, "You've crossed too many lines. You've been warned too many times."
I've been warned before. I've never been warned. Maybe that isn't true. I've been warned a couple of times. One time, somebody.
Hang on, we're getting ready for litigation. You haven't been warned.
Oh, that came out right.
I don't recall. I don't recall. Okay.
Somebody wrote a letter because I said,
Rudy, you're killing me.
I said that the attorney.
Can we tell Michelle Weaver again so I can get banned for forever?
The attorney general's son-in-law was making money by going to all the schools and selling critical race theory, gender questioning, etc., and that it was a conflict. And the guy wrote a letter threatening to sue John. John had a mental breakdown. And then I produced the articles supporting it, and the case went away. And the guy.
Oh, so it wasn't about the 2020 election. One time you were talking about a controversial topic. And
yes. But I mean, if you say sue, he sort of, I don't know, it kind of falls apart. But this one, the second problem with this one is he's involved in some very kind of crazy situation with Newsmax. Because another strange one is about 2 months ago.
You mean Newsmax, the
Newsmax,
the news network owned by Qatar? That Newsmax?
Owned by Qatar. All right, well, whatever. So Newsmax, I'm on Newsmax.
Oh, you're a host. Okay, I take that back. Let me upon further review.
I'm on
Newsmax. You're the best.
I'm on
tells me
Newsmax
that all the time. You're on Newsmax
but
now.
I'm Newsmax.
I'll wait to see the show tomorrow.
You will be edited.
You'll be edited. Be a test.
But in any event, Dr. Maria gets an email saying, if you ever mention Newsmax again, you'll be fired. So she calls Chad Lopez, who's the president of the station, and he says that at a certain dinner, he warned her that you couldn't talk about Newsmax. She pointed out to him that she wasn't at the dinner.
But I watch your show. The only time I've heard her mention Newsmax is she was talking about the John Wayne. They're doing specials over Newsmax. I think there was one on John Wayne.
Yeah.
Because she had told me, you got to watch this John Wayne special on Newsmax. It's magnificent. And I think she made a pitch for people to go watch Newsmax because, right? It was these specials they're doing. I think it was on John Wayne.
And
that's what I think, because I remember after I heard it, I talked to her and she said it was fantastic.
And I occasionally mention Newsmax with reference to Greg Kelly.
Yes.
Because Greg Kelly is on right before me and he's on Newsmax.
He's got a fantastic show.
And I tell him, I say Greg is fabulous. I mean, I know his dad.
I'm partial to Hammerhead mix, so I love.
Listen, that's okay, but I mean,
I love Greg Kelly.
I love Greg Kelly too, and his dad was a year or two ahead of me at Manhattan College, and he was a great police commissioner.
Ray Kelly.
Yeah, Ray Kelly.
He was at Manhattan College.
Yeah, a year or two ahead of me, and Greg has had a remarkable career.
Yes.
And I'm on his show probably twice a week as a lead-in to my show, and then I would promote sometimes and say, "Oh, make sure you listen to his show on Newsmax." Nobody ever told me I couldn't say that. All of a sudden, they bring the hammer down.
Is there a feud between Newsmax and this is called pot stirring?
Gigantic.
Is there a feud between?
Apparently,
is there a feud?
Apparently gigantic, because now.
Hold it, there's a feud between Newsmax and WABC.
Well, I can't mention Newsmax on WABC, according to John. I mean, why? Why would you not mention it? Here's the problem: is they're both. One of them is being sued by Dominion, and the other is Newsmax is being sued by Dominion, and WABC isn't.
Are they being sued by Dominion for anything you did on Newsmax?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I'm not absolutely certain, but I don't think so, because my case is a separate case.
Okay.
I'm
not a machine guy either. They know that I'm not a machine guy.
No.
Even with Mike Lindell, and I understand now the technology is probably more sophisticated. I'm a mail-in ballot guy.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I think it was the mail-in ballots that fixed the election, not the machine.
Particularly like Pennsylvania. The last couple of days in Georgia have been extraordinary about the ballots that didn't get scanned. You've seen what's happening down there.
Georgia's all
it's been amazing.
But I mean, I've always contended I know that Georgia is fixed because the governor won't let me look at the ballots.
Have you ever sat down with John Katzmatidis and walked him through how the 2020 election was stolen, so he knows the math?
Yeah.
Like, you know it. I mean, he knows the math. He knows where it's from, what districts. You've never sat down with him.
Well, I've talked to him about it, but he doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to know, so that he.
I think the New York Times said these were fallacies. Fallacies are they fallacies?
They're absolutely truthful. Okay, I mean, they're completely truthful, and I was never prohibited from saying it, and I kept saying it and kept saying it, and this is the first. I didn't get any other warnings other than this, and then I was fired a day later.
The first time in 60 years, 59 years.
Second time.
Second, no, first time since he was 20.
Oh yeah.
Got fired as 20.
Yeah.
Keep up here. I know.
And
I know we're moving quick. It's a little faster. Do the math. It's a little faster. By the way, I recommend a number 2 pencil for you. Just write it down.
And the second part of it is they then tell me, they give me 3 specific examples of what I can't do. I can't talk about the legitimacy of the election results.
Hold it, full stop. You cannot talk about the legitimacy of the 2020 election, the illegitimate Biden regime.
Well, right. I mean, these are not the brightest lawyers, but they phrase it as the legitimacy of the election results.
Okay, fine. By the way, note to WABC lawyers, those results are illegitimate. Okay, there's not even a question of that. You're insulting your audience. If you want to cut the audience in 80%,
illegitimacy.
Exactly.
But they're not.
Like at least 70%.
Not being conservative.
Yeah, being conservative.
70%. I shouldn't be listening to WABC.
It should be 9%. Yes.
Stop it. Why are you listening to a fraudulent station?
Yes.
I also cannot. I can't discuss allegations of fraud effectuated by election workers in the 2020 election. And I can't.
This would be about the situation in Georgia.
About the women, where the stipulation relates only to the case. I'm talking about it.
Explain that to people, because it's not that's
okay.
very.
So
you're getting into legalese. My brain's starting to hurt. It's a Friday. I got to understand
the
it.
2 women claim that
I don't drink. I'm not like the rest of your audience here.
The 2 women
in the bag.
The 2 women claim that I defamed them when I said that they double and tripled and quadruple counted votes, among other things.
Go softly here. You $140 million. I want to be very. I want to make sure on the platform. I think we're streaming you now.
I have seen videos of at least one of them doing it.
Stop.
Physically.
Stop. Let's not. We're not going to adjudicate this now. But your whole thing is signed.
And I have them. And I signed a stipulation.
Okay.
Waiving the trial.
Yes.
So that we could move on to the damages, because I was going to lose the trial, and my only hope.
Going to lose the trial
because 100 J6 people went to trial in front of DC juries, and everyone got convicted.
Oh, this was DC. It was not going to take place in Georgia.
It would take place in Nazi Germany.
Okay. It was not going to take place in.
It would be like going to trial in front of a Hitler court or a Stalin court.
Okay.
No chance. My lawyer is a fine lawyer. It would have been malpractice for him to tell me anything else. I mean, as a lawyer, you just got to tell the straight out truth.
But that stipulation only handles to the trial, not to everything else. So this part of it's not.
If it didn't,
it's not legitimate.
Just think about it. If it didn't involve just a trial, how can I appeal?
Okay.
So I'm appealing it right now. In fact, I've been given permission to appeal it, and my lawyer thinks I've got a very good chance. But everybody,
what's the third point?
So I can't talk about it.
Okay.
According to them.
Okay.
However, I've been talking about it consistently since the day of the verdict. And in this particular case, almost every one of their people have questioned me about it. So where's the prohibition? I mean, they never told me there was such a prohibition. I think I talked about it 2 days ago.
I mean, every one of the people, other personalities.
Meaning other hosts, when I go on, would say, because they all uniformly agree that the $145 million is wacko.
Fine.
They say, what a wacko judgment. Okay. $145 million for 2 women who never earned more than, $20,000 or $40,000. This is ridiculous. And then they find out I never had a trial, that the judge wouldn't let me testify on damages, told me if I told my story, I'd be held in contempt. So I'd be joining you.
I remember that. Right? I remember that.
But basically, and she's a bloodthirsty judge. Yeah. She was the judge. She was the J6 judge, chief judge, who called all the judges in.
This is a federal court.
Yes. Told all the other judges, you're not given enough time. So that she should have been impeached. Yeah. I've never heard. I was a clerk to a chief judge. I can't imagine my judge, who was tough as nails, ever telling other judges what to do. Okay. And the other judges not getting him thrown out if he did it. I mean, that should be grounds for an investigation of a conspiracy on that court. to put those people in jail for excessive periods of time. Judges don't get together and conspire about sentences. But that's the judge that I had, a bloodthirsty judge. And I don't think I ever got a chance to give any of my defense to the jury, nor did they put in any evidence of damages. It's like Engamoron in Trump's case. Engamoron comes up with $345 million on zero damages. 345 million times zero is zero. Where did he come up with it? Right there. That's the 345 million.
He did give them a series of things of how he calculated. I'm not saying like Mar-a-Lago was only worth 18 million and those. I mean, he did present calculations.
He did, but nobody lost any money.
I got that. The Trump thing's totally.
So how do you have damage? The damages for fraud. Damages for fraud. This goes back to law school, which I don't think any of these people went to, or as my judge used to say, my favorite judge.
I didn't, because then I'd have to hang out with guys like you. So I went to business school.
You probably learn more.
I'm not.
When Judge McMahon had lawyers like this,
the wall.
you know what he would say to the lawyers when they do something like that? He would say to them, "Where'd you go to law school?" I said, "I went to Columbia." Get your money back. Or sometimes he'd really hit.
What's the third?
Or sometimes he'd really hit him, and he'd look at the client and he said, "You paying this guy?"
What's the third?
Well,
moving along here. What's the third?
The
Not that Rudy can get obsessed by certain topics.
There are
right?
two. There are really just two reasons I was fired. Talking about the 2020 election and talking about the case in Atlanta. In both cases,
well, even let me.
In both cases, I've been doing it over and over again.
Even it talks about the case in Atlanta. Because I never talk about my cases. One of the reasons is the audience has so much more we got to get through. I just don't have time. But in talking about your cases, you've held your ratings. The point is, at 3:00, your show is the #1 rated show in New York at 3:00.
Yes.
Okay. So even you talking about your cases, the audience somehow, it's something that the audience wants to hear.
Yeah, and I don't talk about them. I talk as an example, like for example, on the judgment of 145 million, I used it as an example of the 345. These judges can just pull it out of their backside.
Yeah.
And how unfair that is. Here's a case with no damages for fraud. So how do you come up with damages? Here's a case where they put in no proof of anything.
Yep.
And the jury comes up with 145 million. The same jury that would have convicted me, burned me, or done anything that they want.
And President Trump also, in that his case, for people to do financings, it's so extraordinary. The banks lost no money. The banks had their own independent advisors. The banks did their own independent due diligence. I mean, on any transaction, right? But these banks are the most sophisticated in the world. The company puts forward valuations. The company puts forward assessments. The company puts forward projections and analysis. But you, as a financier, you never take that. In fact, you have a fiduciary responsibility as a banker to independently give your own assessment. Sure, yeah. And then you can make a determination. If it's too far, you say, well, hey, maybe management's not on top of things. But here, there was never any complaints. They made the loans. The loans were never in arrears. So the loans all got paid off. So any kind of esoteric argument would be like the net present value of the spread if the bankers had charged officially what because they said they overvalued the properties. Well, then it doesn't go to quote the issuer. It doesn't go back to Trump. The problem would be with the teams. The problem would be the breach of fiduciary responsibility of Morgan, of JP Morgan and things. So it's the Trump case for people that have been in finance is so absurd. Even before you get to the damages, it's so absurd. It's actually more absurd than what he's going through now, which is the most absurd criminal thing I've ever seen in my life. But the fraudulent thing is that responsibility, if there was, and I don't think there was any responsibility, would have been on the banks for not, because they argued, well, the banks didn't get the interest rates they should have, or the insurance companies. So hold it. It's dependent upon, they have a fiduciary responsibility as a financial entity to do their work. That's what their shareholders and the people that the bank regulators all
going through now, I would say, can easily contest with that for the following reason. We still don't know the felony that this was in pursuance of.
This is amazing. 4 weeks ago.
Joke, funny. What does due process mean? Due
Yeah.
process means to be afforded the allegations against you so you can prepare your defense. I have never heard of a case, an indictment
So
that's
what's
gone
why,
to trial without.
why his lawyer, can
prosecutor-
his lawyer sit there and go, we're just not going to go forward on this? I mean, they've asked for mistrials now 3 or 4 times. We're 4 weeks into this. And there isn't,
we don't know what the felony is. I mean, you had to charge it in the indictment.
isn't
Should have been
this,
dismissed.
isn't this right now? We know that next week, this afternoon, right as you were getting fired, the weaponization. See, this is the great thing about Rudy.
I know.
He
It's
can get fired at this age and still have the great. This is why he's such a great man. You have such a great spirit.
Why I was fired. A lot of people would
But-
cave in. How many people on the station?
If he had come to you and
Never mind, I
said,
shouldn't
hold
say
on,
that.
if he had come to you and said, you have to do this, would you have kept the job?
I don't know what you mean.
If he had told you, you got this letter, you can never talk again about the fraudulent election. You can never talk again that President Trump really won the 2020 election.
Unthinkable.
You have to say that Joe Biden is the legitimate president of the United States.
I mean, it's not even imaginable that I would do that. I mean, my father.
It goes against the core of your being, right? Because that would be a lie.
It goes against the country I'm a citizen of. Maybe he's a citizen of a different country, but it goes against the core of the country that I'm a citizen of. This is a country of free speech. This is not a country of rich people bossing people around and telling them they can't say anything. I mean, a lot of people will subscribe to this because they're afraid they're going to lose their job. And I sympathize with them, although I would never even care if I made it.
Rudy, can I
If I had no money, I'd rather starve.
make a comment? Listen to your show. And I think in that letter, it said that our policy as of a certain date, 2021, something of that nature, is that the elections are behind us, it's over, it's not to be discussed. But
Who said, and in his letter, he says that?
New York Times,
Yeah, that probably was made up because it's not in the article.
but
But even if
election challenge is a fluid thing and more information comes out every day. Now, you're one of the best attorneys in the country, one of the best attorneys ever. This is supposedly a news talk radio station. So this is news, changes, and you discussing what's going on and challenging this narrative is news and accurate news. What good is this radio station if they're saying, I'm sorry, we decided 3 years ago, and there's no more news to come out. And
It's a great point. It's a great point.
Period. It's a loud.
Well, listen, this is the problem also.
would you like to
Republican House.
have a microphone and say that? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
that was a
fantastic.
that was great analysis.
That was great analysis.
You're-
And this is why this is a festering sore right now in the American body politic, and it has to, by an investigation. You must investigate the 2020 election, adjudicate it. You must adjudicate what happened on January 6th. You must adjudicate everything that's happened since in the vast conspiracy against President Trump. You must do
Yeah.
that. You can't, otherwise it's every day and more information comes forward, and it is news.
And it's hard to say, the priorities, but to me, the judicial system, the criminal justice system has got to be the first priority because it has the most power. It can take away, look, they're taking away people's liberty based on frame-ups. That's intolerable. That you might as well be in Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia.
Well, Rudy, I was want to interrupt it.
How can you possibly try someone and not tell them the felony? There are thousands of felonies. What am I supposed to do? Prepare for all 1,000? It is a gross violation of due process. It violates the Fifth Amendment. It violates the 14th Amendment. It violates anything that anyone who was a decent person would think about a judicial system. And anybody who goes forward with a case like that should be thrown out of being a lawyer. Not me, but it's the ones who do it that are trying to throw me out.
Well, I raised the issue, and I think you guys have covered it pretty well. But I listened to your show because, number one, you're one of the best attorneys the United States has ever had. Number two, you're honest, and you'll talk about issues and provide insights that none of these other idiots that get on and talk to. But as it relates to the 2020 election, it's fluid. Things come out all the time. you talked about, there's a case, and again, I'm not an attorney, I can't quote it, but they said, well, you tried to raise this and if the information was written and after the case was filed. And so they said, well, I'm sorry, it's not relevant. Well, it was more information. Information comes out all the time. It's just like the COVID stuff. More information is coming out all the time, and you do an excellent job of bringing it up. So I have to say to John, whatever his name is, Castamatidis, the spitter.
Whoa. Whoa.
Castamatidis.
Just went mean girl then.
So
It's a tough crowd. We're gonna open the one.
What is-
You guys gonna?
what
you
is-
guys gonna
what-
relax?
Tough when you get
what's the
fired.
purpose of your radio station? You're just going to tell what the Nets did last night, and there's an accident on the East Side Highway?
Suppose
Sell it.
let's play Wall Street. Suppose tomorrow someone came up with definitive recordings of how Governor Kemp and Stacey Abrams made a deal about the two elections, 2018 and 2020, because they believed that Kemp stole 2018. And they made a deal, and he let them do all these things to cheat. Then he made sure that he would not allow any Republican to take a look at one single piece of paper. In other words, all of the ballots that were sent in.
Hold on, hang on. Who was this? Kemp? Okay, Kemp did what?
This is hypothetical.
A hypothetical. Okay, good.
He made a deal with the Democrats to trade 2018 and 2020.
This is something you're throwing at as a
Yeah.
possibility,
Suppose there was a tape of that.
Right. a theory.
Okay. So, no, a tape. They were on tape.
Tape.
An undercover guy got them on tape.
Theoretically,
No, theoretically.
where are we going with this?
ABC
Where are we going? with
personnel
this?
couldn't cover it.
Help me out. The counselor, help me out with it. Why?
ABC, because it says you are prohibited from engaging in conversations relating to the 2020 presidential election on your program. Broadcast on
Yeah,
television.
but that's what. Hang on, but that's theoretical. Let's talk about Robin Voss in Wisconsin or the 2016 election.
But the whole thing is silly to analyze it because the whole thing's a lie. And it's very hard to analyze a lie because it falls apart.
To hush her up. So you couldn't talk about Stormy, I think, based on what you did.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think it relates to
The election, it's overly broad, though. You're a political talk show host who was involved with the 2020 election. It's very unrealistic. And it's, as you said, Mayor, it's overly broad to restrict you word for word from conversations about
information, as you were saying, information is coming out every day about
Yeah.
the election. So some of it very definitive and very broad. Some of it just minor.
It sounds like, are you preparing? Are you going to sue on this? Are you going to take this? You're going to take a legal, because it looks like you're thinking through
Of course, I'm
legalistically.
thinking through it, and I think without
You're the sharpest legal
without
mind.
going into great detail, I think
Without
that
tipping your
Dr.
hand.
Dr.
Without tipping your hand.
Without tipping my hand, I think Dr. Maria has a absolutely overwhelming case of workplace harassment. And also, we're going to have to question how many women have left WABC over the last 2 to 3 years. Some of them are pretty prominent right now.
Are there female hosts over at WABC?
Rita Cosby.
Or Rita? In fact, she does the show with John.
She also on Newsmax.
Yes. Don't talk about Newsweek.
But she can't. She's not allowed to talk.
You can't mention.
She's not allowed to talk about a show on Newsmax.
We'd love to get your Sunday show immediately on REV. I'm talking to Rob Sick about that.
We're going to go on X for sure on Sunday.
On Sunday morning, you are.
Yeah, anybody who wants to.
Okay, so we'll Grace and Mo, we got it. We'll.
If you guys want to cover,
We'll put on Getter.
And anybody that wants to hear me, that's part of my audience. You can hear me right on X.
We'll put some Arch Gold promos at the beginning.
And
My
take
Pillow.
a little break.
Promo
right
code Bannon.
No, on this one is Rudy. On this one it's Rudy.
No, just kidding.
Just kidding. It's Rudy. And I want you to get that blanket.
We got to get 2 products.
why don't you get the blanket with
We
the
got- yeah,
flag
2
and take it
things
to
in
the
there.
liberal beach and drive them friggin' nuts, but bring a couple of big guys with you.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go to commercial.
It's like that, just like that 5'4"
You have
janitor.
commercial breaks on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a minute. 5'4", see, he's gonna take me off. The 5'4" janitor took that twink and stuck him right at the 27-year-old twink and laid him out with one shot. Go ahead.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
This is Rudy Giuliani back again on America's Mayor Live with the great patriot, Steve Bannon. Now, Steve, let's talk about your case because that made news.
No, I do not. I never. Okay. People in Worm know I never talk about any of my cases ever. Never mention.
Not going to mention it at all?
No. We fight on.
We're going to have to find out from somebody else what the heck is happening.
We're going to live. My lawyer put out a great statement. We'll get it to you. But I have not yet begun to fight, to quote John Paul Jones.
Good, because the whole case is bullshit. I mean, it's really unbelievable what they have done to the justice system. And to me,
The reason I never talk about, I don't want to bore them. Our audience is such activists. They get so much on their plate. There's so much to do for 2024. I'm just a cog in the wheel. And other people talk about it.
But all of this also motivates.
I understand that.
Like for example, if you
Our
can't,
guys are motivated. They want to fight. They're watching tonight.
but
It's 8:00 on a Friday.
Steve,
How motivated you got to be to watch you and me on a Friday night at 8:00 when most people are out having dinner, having a drink,
we're never
relaxing.
motivated enough. There's too much
I
risk
get
in
that,
this
I get
election. We're never motivated enough.
Tell me about that. What do you think? Have we done enough to? Okay, you were there. You know that 2020 was stolen. You were the tip of the spear. Since then, they try to bankrupt you. They're trying to put you in jail. They're trying to smear you. You were the greatest mayor in the world. They're trying to, mock you, ridicule you, all of it. Have we done enough to make sure that this November, that when we have an overwhelming vote, we actually close the deal this time? Do you think we've stopped the cheating of the Democratic justice apparatus?
I'm not sure. I see some good things.
Tell me the good things.
Well, I like what they're doing in Pennsylvania, even though Pennsylvania is one of the toughest.
I think it's the toughest. What do you like what they're doing there?
What I like what they're doing in Pennsylvania is they're organizing massive early voting, and they are going to try to challenge that early voting tremendous lead that they get. Remember, we won like
on game day in 2020, 2 million to 1 million, not win. I mean, blow it.
That's why it was about the paper. That's why you were right. It's about the paper. We won. Now, maybe we got cheated with a few votes and we could have won by more, but gosh almighty, when we were up by 800,000 in Pennsylvania
at 11:00 at night,
I said to myself, you know what I actually said? I said, it's too late for them to cheat now. What a stupid idiot.
I was saying Trump, and I said when we went around, I said when he had to at 11:00 when the national news is playing, the nightly news in New York and Philadelphia, he's got to go there, step in front of the microphone and say, hey, look, I got this. I won this.
Well,
and it's no legal.
I'm the one who urged him to claim election
victory. And then let him, that totally changes the narrative.
All the little sissies were upset about that.
That would have changed the whole dynamic.
Because I contend that if you look at the vote when they closed down that night, it was close enough for them to call it for them if they wanted. They've called elections.
Oh no, it was more than enough. They were arguing the mail-in ballots, and it was all crap. It was all crap as far as the person. Now, when you say about mail-in, remember they had the 2 envelope situation in Philadelphia. Has that been solved
No.
to your degree?
No.
That they kept us behind cages last time. You couldn't get to it. They opened the ballots
I
and
think
threw it
that'll
in.
be solved.
You think that'll be solved?
I think that has to be solved this time because you don't, unless they come up with a new epidemic, they don't have a COVID excuse this time. I mean, what happened is, and this is why it's tough. I mean, this is why I knew it was a conspiracy from day one. All of a sudden, I find out the day after the election that in Pennsylvania, in both Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, in Milwaukee, in Atlanta, and in Detroit, they had put up barriers.
Yeah.
And they had kept the Republicans behind
Yes.
barriers, and they wouldn't let them see the paper.
But the Republicans had accepted that instead of raising holy hell and calling in. No, Republicans accepted.
No, we went to court in Pennsylvania. We went to court. We went to court with
At what time in the morning?
oh my goodness, and 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, with the Attorney General of Florida,
Oh, Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi.
On election night, and the judge said that you got to stand behind the chicken wire fence.
Yeah, and then they went to the appellate court, and the appellate court reversed it. And the appellate court said the law of Pennsylvania says that a candidate's representative has to be present for the counting of a vote. The lower court judge had said, well, you're present, but you're 25 miles away.
Right.
But you're present. That's okay, just present. The intermediate judge said, hey, it doesn't mean that you're present and you can sit there and be a potted plant. You're present.
Right.
It's got to be read in the context of the meaning of the statute.
Right.
You're there to inspect. So now Pam Bondi and who was the other one? Ted,
Yeah, Mike Rowan.
Pam Bondi. No, Mike wasn't. Mike was there, but he wasn't from Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
Rhode Island?
From
A lawyer?
Yeah.
Are you talking about?
Oh, I think he was. Of course he was, because she called me. She called me on the phone and she said, you have to come here. They're keeping us out. I said, I can't come here. I'm organizing 5 other states. She said, you have to come here. You have to come here. You have to come here. And she broke me down. She said on the phone as I'm getting there, she said, we have an order from an intermediate judge that allows us to get next to the paper. She walked in, showed it to the sheriff, and the sheriff said, F you.
Of course, because the Democrat sheriff.
And he just held them up. And it went up to the highest court, which is crooked as all get out. And they reversed it. And eventually they wrote an opinion somehow justifying that even though you didn't get to see anything, even though you
Nothing
get your football
happened.
field away.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
It was all fine.
That was present. That was present.
So how's that been reversed now?
That actually got reversed a year later by the court. You have to be required to
Actually be on top of it.
Yeah. Now you're going to have the same problem in the crooked places, but you got to be on top of it. You just got to fight it.
The crooked place. You said Pennsylvania. It's all crooked. I mean, come on.
They think about the other part of it. This is what told me it was a conspiracy on day one. So now 5 different Democratic bosses come up with the idea of getting pens to put Republicans behind, like on their own. And each one of them woke up that morning and said, gee, never did this before.
No.
We're going to go out and buy barbed wire and put the Republicans.
It was very systematic.
Number 2. So somebody told them to
Right.
do that. No, but why did they pick Philadelphia? Crooked as hell. Pittsburgh, crooked as hell. Atlanta, crookeder than maybe New York. Detroit, they own the judiciary there.
Yeah.
Now I keep educating people because I am an expert on the New York Manhattan Supreme Court. With a few exceptions, it's been consistently crooked for 150 years. If you say Manhattan Supreme Court justice, I say crook. Here's why. They get appointed by the party boss. They have fake elections. So Engoron's been elected 3 times. Wow, 3 times. Never had an opponent. That's the way you get elected in Soviet Russia. The other one, Mershon, he's never even been put up for election. The party boss is just shuffling him around and playing him for a sucker.
Did President Trump call his bluff on the gag order and force the issue here about throwing him in jail?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Because I think the public would be outraged, particularly with the fact that although you tell me this, have we established enough just how much talking and maligning and discussion the other people have done, like Cohen, that you don't get to respond to, and that also his lawyers are gagged. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, his lawyers can defend him." Ah, his lawyers are gagged. His ex-lawyers are gagged. I mean, they're trying to, they want to shut us all up as soon as, I mean, so I don't see why he just doesn't go right at it. I mean, it's a completely
Today he gave it,
unconstitutional
today
order.
we played on the show, before he got you on, he came out and gave 10 minutes of the best summary of the case. And I mean, he must have called the judge corrupt 20 times.
He's allowed to do that.
Yes, that's why he's kind of.
So one exception that the judge has made, I guess, knowing, said he can criticize me.
Yeah, he did.
But not my daughter, who's making millions defaming Trump.
There's enough here already to be overturned,
Oh,
right?
Mike.
But they don't care about that. They care about smearing him.
So the last time I was on John Castamatini's show,
Who's that?
the guy who fired me.
Okay.
Last time I was on,
Does he have a show? Does he have a show?
I made a recommendation that we have to change.
Everybody's going to call on Monday and say, hire Rudy.
May I?
Like the boards, light the boards up, folks. We want Rudy.
Can I do it? Can
Rudy.
You want me to go in the football game?
Well, call WABC.
Give me my helmet.
646.
I'm a Packer fan. Oh, I'm an Eagle fan. Did you see that Biden thing about being a Packer fan? Oh my God! The other day he's in Green Bay and he says, "I've always been a Packer fan."
I thought it was from Pennsylvania.
Because I went to a Catholic high school run by the Norbertine fathers, and the
high school in Delaware that overwhelmingly rooted for Green Bay. Not a joke, I'll tell you why. Every single Sunday. Not only did they have great teams at the time, we still do, but not only that, my theology professor at the Catholic school I went to was a guy named Riley, last name, and he had been drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and he decided to become a priest before that, so he didn't go.
Fact check. Green Bay Packers never drafted a Riley except a guy who was a fighter pilot. No Riley from that school. So that's completely made up. He's told that story about 20 times before, never mentioned it before. However, there's also video of him extolling his lifelong affiliation with the Eagles when the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not worth very much except for the fact
you can't mention on WABC he's an illegitimate usurper at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, or you would be fired. Am I to take that correct?
That's what it says.
If you say that guy, who it just irks me even to see his presence, but if you
If you hit home runs about 250 or 260, it's a little different. But that's a different story. It is going to be
It
interesting.
wouldn't happen to be that New York fans are the biggest front runners in the world, would it? I would not dare me to say that comes from the hinterland of this country.
gotta
The
be-
Yankees fans are the biggest front runners in the world.
Of course we are, and we're also totally spoiled.
Coming out of the 50s.
And
into the
I don't know
60s.
why the ones now shouldn't be. I grew up in the 50s.
Yeah.
So I grew up with the 5 World Series in a row.
Yeah.
When the Yankees weren't in the World Series, I didn't actually think it was fall. I thought football had to be canceled.
Yeah.
Everything had to be. The Yankees aren't in the World Series.
Yeah.
When the Yankees lost to the Dodgers, who they beat 7 times in a row, it was like suicide time.
See, my hometown was the Yankees AAA front, Richmond, Virginia. The Richmond V's were the farm club
For a while, yeah.
in the 50s and 60s. And we set up after the decline. We set up, Stottlemyre, Tom Tresh.
A good player though.
Yeah. Oh, great player.
Yeah, and Tresh good player
Yeah.
with a couple of
Yeah. He had some lean years.
yeah.
Before
It's a shame. It's a shame that
the Yankees were sold for $2 million.
It's $2 million. I
It
forgot.
was like $2 million in 1971 or something, 72
You
to
know,
Steinbrenner, who's a good buddy of yours, right?
and a good buddy of Trump. And
Very
in
big.
fact, a lot of our relationship comes from my friendship with George. I was very close to George, and he was very close to George, and that's how we became friends. I mean, we became friends actually over his problem with Ed Koch. When Donald Trump built the Woolman Rink,
Yes.
the Woolman Rink was a 3 or 4 year project.
The president his own
The Woolman Rink people will remember from Love Story. And it's the rink right in the middle of Central Park. It's a beautiful rink, but it was falling apart. Somebody, I'm not sure Koch, but one of the mayors decided to redo it. 10 years, never done, 4 or 5 investigations. Mayors, Koch was not a crook, but he never looked. So everybody stole. And he probably had about 3 thefts before. So Trump one day announces that young
New York
Trump,
construction that they steal.
I don't even think you call. No, it's just part of the game. So Trump says, give it to me. I'll get it done in 8 months
Yeah.
or a year or
Yeah.
10 months. Let's say 10 months. I'll get it done in 10 months. Koch said, okay. Koch didn't particularly like him because he thought he was too,
Brash.
yeah. Because Koch was too brash.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, kid, go do it. He gets it done like in 8 months.
Yes.
First thing he asked for is a bonus. He said, I should be paid more. And this wouldn't be a bad idea, he said to Koch. You get things done faster if you paid bonuses. I did that when I was mayor, and I did, but and I got that from him. But so if you paid me a bonus, you should pay me a bonus because people will get it done faster, and they'll cut out the extra overtime and all the other crap. He said, I'm not giving you a bonus. So now they're having the ceremony. And I'm at the ceremony. I was the U.S. attorney then. I could put them all in jail at that point. So they had to invite me, and they had to make believe they were nice to me. So I would sit there, and I'm listening to it, and I see him get up, Trump get up, and I said, "Oh, I know it's going to happen." Trump says, "I think the mayor should name this after me."
At the ceremony.
At the ceremony.
That's a Trump move.
The Trump-
That's a power move right there.
But he didn't say it like,
Right.
how Trump can be boastful sometimes.
right.
That's huge.
Right.
He just said it very matter of factly.
Right.
And even worse, Trump rink. Let's make it Trump rink. Koch goes nuts.
Not at the ceremony.
No.
Oh, afterwards.
Koch just sort of like says a little something,
Yeah.
hardly shake hands and walks out. And
Was Trump doing this tongue in cheek, or was he?
I've never known.
It's a trial balloon. It's
But
a
then
trial
Koch-
balloon. Well, why
Koch
not?
went and
You're not going to get it if
but
you
now-
don't ask.
now-
If you don't ask.
Remember, this becomes lifetime now. So Koch criticizes him.
In the paper.
End of story. We go to DEFCON.
We go to war. We go to
right away.
We go
Koch.
to war.
Boom. Koch, back and forth. It is determined that I'm the only person in New York that could beat Koch, even as a Republican, because of my exploits as U.S. attorney. And everybody's trying to convince me to run for mayor, and he began supporting me, and he never stopped.
Trump.
Yeah, and he never stopped. He supported me for mayor in '89, supported for mayor in '93, he supported me in '97. He supported me in my loss for president, even though Hillary Up to that
Did
point,
he have, and all that supporting you, did he have any affinity for politics? He just thought it was a dirty business. You're the best guy he knew, but did he have any affinity, ask you any questions, spend any time, study it during that time?
I'll use an Italian expression, mezza mezza, meaning sometimes yes, sometimes no, some issues yes, some issues no. So, for example, on trade, you're not going to move him on the trade. He's got it. He understands it. And you give him another 4 years in the White House, he's going to fix the whole thing. Crime. Fabulous supporter of the police. He and George together.
Steinbrenner.
Yeah. Police officer gets injured. First thing they do is direct money there. And they tell me not to mention it. And I actually get a little angry at both of them at times and say, look, this is great. But if I can say that you gave money,
you inspire.
I can raise other people.
Yeah.
And George, I think, gave him this Christian thing. He said, if you get your credit here, you won't get it in heaven. Which, of course, is true. Right. It's in the Bible. But, Jesus didn't have to face the problems of supporting a city like I did. The only time I got them to change was September 11th.
What was their relationship?
He would go to all the Yankee games and sit in George's box. They always would sit in George's box, and they'd have lunch before the game. They would have dinner a lot at PJ Clark's together. That was their
PJ Clark's, the old speakeasy.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that was a big place for them.
Yes,
to have dinner. That's the only place I've had dinner with them. Now they had dinner at other places too, but they were close friends. They were closer friends to each other than I was to either of them. But I knew George longer. I had represented WPIX when they did the Yankee games, and I got the assignment of negotiating with George because nobody else would do it. My boss, Harold Tyler.
You mean the broadcast rights?
Yeah.
You negotiated for WPIX, the independent channel, for the broadcast rights.
Nobody else wanted to negotiate with George because George would.
Also, the local broadcast rights are probably at that time 60 or 70% of the value of the franchise.
Yeah, and it ranged from when I started, there was about 25, 30 million. Our last deal was for 60 million. So you get an idea of the difference, right? Before they went.
But that was back in $60 million, a lot of money, real money.
Yeah. So I got I began my career in Patterson Belknap as a partner because I'd been a lawyer for 10 or 11 years. So Judge Tyler did the first negotiation with George and said, George, would you mind if Rudy, so George said, no, he seems like a good kid. So we
seems like a crush. Yeah, he's fantastic.
And
what law school? Right.
We became great friends. He was a Cleveland Indian fan.
Because he was from Cleveland.
Yeah, he knew all about the Cleveland Indians, and I was a real expert on the Cleveland Indians because the Yankees made some very big trades with the Cleveland Indians.
Rocky.
No, that's where they got Reynolds. That's where they got the big chief.
Allie Reynolds,
who was the key to their. Yeah. He and Vic Raschi were the key pitchers. They're two right-handed pitchers, and Joe DiMaggio. They wanted somebody else. Yankees wanted somebody else who also was a great pitcher. And DiMaggio told the owner, Del Webb, go get that Indian. Damn it. I can't hit his fastball. The other guy, it wasn't Bob Feller, it was the other guy. It was a great pitcher. He said, Lopez, maybe. So the other guy, he's faster, but the ball's straight. This goddamn Indian. The ball breaks.
The big chief.
The ball breaks. You can't even see it.
Yeah.
Get him. My batting average would go up. They got him. And the guy ended up being a relief pitcher.
Yeah.
Won World Series.
Steinbrenner brought this as an economic opportunity because $2 million. CBS wanted to get out. They'd run the franchise.
He became a fan.
Right.
And he brought over a lot of the Cleveland staff, administrative staff with him when he came over. But I mean, he revolutionized baseball. When you think about it, he changed the game for better or worse.
You said something about Steinbrenner and Trump after 9/11. What was that about? About stepping up and letting people know that they donate, inspire other people.
In that case, they did, and allowed me to put them on a list because my first donation was from General Motors, and they gave me $10 million. And when the guy told me it was $10 million, I said, can I have a press conference?
Your first donation to the firemen and to the police that
I got a call.
the widows fund.
I was calling up in order to get overnight generators because we had no power. And I called up General Motors and I said, can you please get them to us tonight? He said, don't worry, Mayor. I'm new, but we have a whole protocol here. It's on its way to you. And your guy, Rudy Washington, who's also on ABC, by the way, Rudy Washington already talked to me. They'll be there. But, I have a question for you. My people have been talking about making donations. We'd like to make a donation where it goes directly to the police officers and firefighters, just to them. Doesn't get mixed up with everybody else. And do you have such a fund? And I said, kind of, yeah, kind of. We had a fund where you could do that because we would collect money for them. But we would use it for all city workers. And then he said, yeah, well, good. Please tell me. I don't want to bother you, but could somebody come and pick up the check? We have a check for 10 million and you could. So I was busy with a million things, but that stopped me. I said, you got a check for how much? 10 million. I said, I tell you what, hold the check. I need a little time. I would like to have a press conference with you because if you gave me 10 million, I can get all these other guys.
Yeah.
And we eventually raised 230 million. Every single penny went to firefighters, police officers' families, and the New York Times wrote an editorial about how inequitable that was. They all became millionaires. You know what I said?
The families did, for those that gave them.
They criticized me for making them millionaires. So I went back to my original. This is why I was a great mayor. Ronald Reagan taught me. This one statement stayed with me forever. He was asked, do you read the New York Times? He said, I have to read the New York Times. I follow it carefully every day. I read them very carefully, and then I do the opposite. I used to use that all the time as the mayor. Drove him nuts. I think they wrote one good editorial about me when they endorsed me for re-election because they had to, because I turned around every damn thing in the city that you could possibly turn around. And I was the best mayor the city ever had.
Greatest mayor.
They couldn't possibly even argue it. They couldn't argue it. The numbers prove it. So they endorsed me for re-election, a very nice endorsement. And then they went right back to first big break with them after that was when I took the money away from the Brooklyn Museum when they put cow dung on the Blessed Mother as a form of art. And my contention was, you want
to. And they had piss Christ.
Yeah, this is not a First Amendment issue.
Right.
This is a government. Is a government money issue. You want to go do that in a private? In fact, 2 years before, somebody did a piss Christ thing, and I at a private museum, and I had to protect them, and I did. That was my job. But now you want me to give you city money so you can humiliate Catholics? My goodness, if you did it to Muhammad, the Muslims would go nuts, and he really did kill people.
Where do you go from here? You just got fired by WABC. You're working like crazy. You got this show, which is fantastic. You get okay.
Go on the street.
What are you going to do? By the way, what job are you going to take in the Trump administration? What job do you want?
The job I wanted. The job I wanted the last time. Not the first time. I wanted to be Secretary of State. Man, I would have gotten that place cleaned up. That woman in Ukraine would have been gone a lot faster than Pompeo got rid of her. Yeah.
You mean the ambassador?
The one who was holding up all the witnesses from coming to America.
Well, you're working on a big book for that. About the Biden crime. So
the one who fixed the case for Soros.
I think the Biden crime family book from War Room Books comes out, supposed to be over the we're supposed to launch it theoretically during the convention.
Wow.
I think we're on track. I hope we're on track. But there you go through the whole.
I have more time.
You go through. No, you're not, because we're gonna get gigs for you. But first off, we'll get you a radio gig.
So
we'll go John Frederick's Radio Network.
Just so I don't have a breakdown at 10 on Sunday. Get on whatever you're on right now, or
we're going to push it hard.
Whatever Steve tells you, and we'll do Uncovering the Truth. And there won't be any limitations on what we can say. Isn't that nice? Not that there ever were, but there were, and I didn't know about them. Wow, I'm so bad.
If John Katzentees asked you to come back and he took off the restrictions, would you go back to WABC? Given the way you've been treated over the last
That would
24
depend
days.
on if they straighten things out with Dr. Maria as well.
Okay.
The way I mean, this is
Well, how they get you're the number one Sunday morning
this is
show,
for
you're
her.
number one.
This is for her to tell, but they treated her in a way that is despicable, absolutely despicable. And that isn't John as much as it is Chad Lopez, who.
Do they have a woman problem there?
Well, if you look at the number that have left, one might suggest that, but maybe some lawyer has to look at that.
Maybe somebody has to look at that.
And Dr. Maria has a right to have that examined on her own.
But-
But I mean,
but you're
yes,
gonna
they
continue-
would have to
You're going
stop.
to continue your content. You're going to continue your show here. I'm sure you'd be picked up by other radio.
Yeah.
Now, had you syndicated?
Yeah, we are
the show?
syndicated in about 10 markets, not anywhere near what we should be, which I can't understand. Never understood why they didn't syndicate us. But here's the little thing about Dr. Maria. This is totally hilarious. You should be further reminded that pursuant to your agreement with the station, Maria Ryan is only authorized to appear on your Sunday program on a trial basis. Under no circumstances shall she be included as a guest or co-host of your weekday show. Violations of this will result in preemption of the program. Well, first of all, she has been a guest on my daily.
I thought she was the co-host of the Sunday show, and they promote it like that, don't they?
Well,
Am I confused?
how could she be on a
I
trial?
listened to your Sunday show. I thought
Yes, she's a co-host. How could that be?
she also carries a load. I don't want to say she's the talent on the Sunday show, but she's the talent on the Sunday show. I mean, she carries it's a big load she's carrying. Rudy, right? I know you work hard during the week.
The
but Sunday
trial-
morning's her show.
There's no question about it, and it has her.
It's the number one show.
And I defer
Are
to.
you getting calls from
And she also produces my podcast, and I mean, the trial basis, Steve, is 4 years. I didn't know she's on a trial basis for 4 years.
That's a long audition.
I mean, that's complete bullshit. You should be further reminded that pursuant to your agreement, I have no agreement with the station about Maria. Maria Ryan is only authorized to appear in a Sunday program. Well, then how did she come on my other show 50 times? I mean, they just make things up. And of course, the New York Times won't cover it. The New York Times won't cover the fact that they're just a bunch of lying.
Well, yeah,
I didn't realize they were such liars. When John wrote this to me and then claimed that this was a policy of the show that I knew about, of the program that I knew about, I said to myself, I'm dealing with a liar now. But this one here is even worse. She's on a trial basis for 4 years. And we have an agreement like that?
What have you talked to the New York Post? You have tremendous.
Yes.
You have talked to the New York Post.
Yeah.
And is your side of this, is that the story that came out this afternoon in the Post?
Well, I talked to them about 5:30 or 6. So I don't know if they got it out yet, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'll make sure it gets out. I never get it. You won't get completely fair treatment in the Post. Mezza. I mean, it depends on how they feel about Trump that day.
Yeah, Murdoch's hate Trump.
Well, I know, but now they're becoming realistic. Notice how they're sucking up. I mean,
Exactly.
they're sucking up big time.
You can tell the temperature at Fox.
Yeah, so, and the reporters are okay. I mean, the reporters, they have to push.
It's not their fault. They
have to push the report. It's like the people here. People here are okay, but they can't talk about the 2020 presidential election. It's only probably one of the 3 or 4 most important issues facing the American people.
The 2020 election?
They can't talk about the 2020.
The 2020 election is the railhead of everything that's happened. The country's being destroyed because we have an illegitimate, did I say this? We have an illegitimate usurper at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue currently occupying the White House. And if WABC doesn't understand that, they've had their head in the sand for 4 years. This is the single biggest thing. Now, I think 50 or 60% of the people have questions about this, right? It's just not the hardcore Trump base. And every day you get additional facts like you just got in Georgia the last couple of days. It's become more evident. This is one of the reasons. If Biden got 81 million votes, all they would talk to us about every day is he got 81 million votes, you're going to get 90 million this time. The other day on Axios, they're talking about he's now got our strategy. 6% of the 6 states. He's looking at the 25 counties because he didn't get 81 million votes. And Katsimatidis, as dumb as you are, even you can understand that. And this is just gutless cowardness. I'm going to tell you, we're going to dog you. Okay. We're going to dog WABC, right? I love Sid Rosenberg every Monday. I've been doing for the last month or two, his morning show on Monday mornings. I love the guy. It's fantastic.
I love him too.
We can't do any more WABC. This
Maria
is
Ryan
outrageous.
is
And
only
all MAGA should understand you got stabbed in the back today in the biggest talk radio station in New York City, the biggest one, the biggest talk radio station, not the biggest in the country. You got stabbed in the back because they're too gutless. They're too gutless to face up to the Biden regime and tell them you're not legitimate. Okay. And we will never back off in that war room. And here's the reason why, because it happens to be the truth. The truth is, let me repeat this. Donald Trump won 2020. Joe Biden's illegitimate. He's an illegitimate usurper at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So take your number 2 pencil out there and write that down.
Rudy,
Right.
they just had a Bud Light.
Bud Light moment.
They
Yeah,
had-
I like that. A Bud Light moment. Yeah, yeah.
A red Adams apple.
Now I'm getting myself really steamed about this Maria Ryan lie, the Maria Ryan lies. That we have an agreement that she's only authorized to appear on your Sunday program. Well, we have all these agreements that I just keep violating and they do nothing about it.
What's the title of the show? I listened to the show. The title is the Sunday Mornings with Dr. Maria and Rudy.
Yeah, uncovering the truth.
What's the
But on
title?
a trial basis.
Hold on.
Uncovering the truth with Rudy Giuliani and Dr. Maria.
Dr. Maria. And that's what, hold it. The opening jingle comes on and the open for the show plays out because I listened to it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, this is
It's also advertised. It's advertised that way every
everywhere on
but
WABC.
it's been a
and
trial
promoted,
basis
and promoted
for 4 years.
and promoted.
Yeah, and she's not allowed on my weekly show, except
That
she's
there's
on my
thousands
weekly
of
show.
times she's.
But what I
she's-
mean, okay. This would be funny if it wasn't a serious problem for our entire country.
they're trying to
if-
suppress the
if-
truth.
Well, yeah, if they're not going to allow their reporters to talk about the 2020 election, you can't trust anything they're reporting. You can't trust anything. I mean, if I were to list 5 major issues facing our democracy, that's one of them.
Number one.
They're not allowed to talk about it.
Hold it. In the history of this nation, you've never had, even the questionable elections they had back in the early 19th century with Aaron Burr and these guys, and they're fighting each other, and John Quincy Adams stealing it from the establishment, trying to steal it from Andrew Jackson. You've never had even the electoral count, what was it 1876 was the big one, the electoral count of 1887 tried to take care of. You've never had a situation where they came in and stole an election. If Joe Biden got 81 million votes, all they'd be talking about is his 81 million votes, and that's going to be a basis, and maybe he lost 1 million people, but he's going to add 10 more, so he's going to get 90 million. He absolutely stole it. So it's the number one. They talk about democracy. You can't have a democracy if you have a presidential election stolen. So it's the number one issue still with the war room. The people there, the activists, the number one issue. It's never going to wait until we adjudicate. This is one of the reasons I hate the weak Republicans. They haven't adjudicated in the House. We should already be through that. And J6, and now they're backing off Trump. But after January 20th of next year, there's going to be a formal adjudication of it has to be. We can't go forward as a nation until we understand how this was stolen, why it was stolen, who was in back of it, who financed it, who coordinated it, who conspired to do it. Everybody, from the state level to the federal level to Biden to the media to all of them.
It's the only way to clean out the cancer.
100%.
Clean out.
It's metastasizing
If you leave just a little of it, it's going to come back. It's going to happen again.
Has to all.
And that's why it has to be brought out. Also, what they're trying to do, and what they've tried to do forever, and they do it about January 6th also, is to create this impression that if you talk about it, you're some kind of a
wingnut,
horrible, crazy,
They're crazy. They're crazy.
Well, they do that for very specific reason because they want to do it again.
Hold on, first off, stop.
They do it because they want to do it again.
On MSNBC, they never have ever talked about a fact. They don't want to talk about any facts. They always talk, well, you went through 50 things, you didn't get standings, a boom, and this. You think Katz-Mattees and the geniuses that run WABC know any of the facts of the 2020? No.
Which one?
You know why? Because it's easy to move on. Well, we don't move on.
Which one is Little Red Lying Hood on?
Who?
Sacky Packy.
MSNBC.
Little Red Lying Hood. That's what I call her. I mean, which one is she on? MSNBC?
MSNBC.
Didn't she wish that Trump was dead the other night? Don't you get thrown off the air for that?
Except on except on MSNBC, you get a better time slot.
Said something about.
Also assume or have this thought in their mind that maybe Donald Trump will go away. Maybe he'll go to jail. Maybe he will die, not to be too morbid, but maybe, I mean, he's not a young man. I think many of them want to.
No, because he's coming back. MAGA's ascended. Trump's coming back for a massive win. MAGA's ascended. This coalition is building African-American men, Hispanic families, Asian Americans, kids under 30. MSNBC melted down yesterday because the poll that was taken, I think it was a CNN poll, has the who's a bigger problem for democracy among independent voters is Biden by 11% over Trump. As much as they've hammered that Trump's the end of democracy, independent voters are a proxy to the American people.
I mean, because they really have.
Yes, because guess what? Wait for it. Independent voters know the 2020 election was stolen, so they see Biden as a threat to democracy.
So, do you think the trial is getting through that this is a totally unfair crooked trial? I think so too.
I think American people are bored.
I put up a big picture on my show. I put up a big picture of Mershon.
Yeah,
I put up a big
question.
We're taking questions, yeah, if anyone has any, but.
Yeah, I have a question from the audience.
Mayor,
I got to bounce because I got to go to bed. I got an early show tomorrow.
We're almost 2 hours in, so.
So tell me, what do you want me to say? And I'll say it quickly and then I'll shut up.
So how can folks?
But you don't want me, are you going to tell me I can't talk about the 2020 election?
Well, how can folks best support you, support us and what we're doing? Of course, they can tune in right here Sunday morning. I want to actually give them the phone number to call in. Call WABC Radio at 646-720-0634 and ask them if they support free speech.
So why don't you also
America.
ask them what other things are their reporters prohibited from reporting on?
That's 646-720-0634. We have the number on the screen. And we want to thank Steve Bannon tonight for joining us. He definitely wanted to be here. He was one of the first people to call.
He's a great man.
When we saw that news,
He's a great man.
If I'm so great, give me some makeup. Where's hair and makeup next time? I don't hear there's always a great man, and you get the best lighting, and you get the makeup.
I'm going to put the makeup
over here in the
I'll do
same
your makeup.
I'll have outfit at the show.
I'll have Dr. Maria do it for you. She taught me. So,
so how do we get the show? Because we're streaming on our thing. How do you get the show?
You know, I'm an expert on prisons. I ran the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
You did.
Yeah, I know.
They're trying to get the federal. They're trying to get the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
How can we go visit Peter?
Well,
there's going
to be some prizes here in the next couple of days, and after that,
I'd love to go visit him.
While you're here, we'll do that.
Because I could evaluate his prison.
Well, you know, the prison woman, the woman that runs the prison, said that Gates could not go down and see him because he's too notorious. Now, remember, Peter Navarro is in on a misdemeanor. These are misdemeanors, not felonies. They're misdemeanors. He's in a federal prison for 4 months on a misdemeanor.
Let me in because I could probably show him how to escape.
Yeah, we'll do. Okay, Rudy, we're just kidding. We're just kidding. Rudy's kidding.
That was obviously
Rudy. Don't go there.
No, that was a joke. Obviously,
that was a joke.
Yeah,
he's joking.
Yeah.
See, I'm not always hip with Rudy's humor, but that's
also. We are making sure that he's not going to.
I had the greatest.
We are making sure that he's not going to commit suicide, right?
No, he's running the prison. What are you talking about? He's having a great.
Well, I mean,
Peter. It's
well, no.
Oh, you mean like Epstein?
Yeah, but
yeah.
It's not the AG. So we're probably okay on that.
No.
Barr's not the AG, so we're probably okay on the suicide thing.
No. This is like Rudy when Roger.
So
Ailes, when Roger Ailes died, Rudy and I talked before the show, and Rudy had the best story, the funniest story about playing with Michelle Wee and how at the last minute they had to fill in for this tournament they've been doing for years.
Oh, they're nuts.
And hold it. And so it was about her. They play a couple holes and she's blowing the ball past these guys. And I think they're playing the women's team. So they get her to back up to the men's and they blow it past back. And so just a funny story. It's got Rush. It's assuming not Ailes is when Rush Limbaugh dies. It's a great story about Rush. It's very heartwarming. And I said, Rudy, that's one of the greatest stories I've ever heard. I mean, it's funny. It shows his humanity. The kid around, and Michelle Wee is one of the greatest players ever play the game. It's fantastic. And so I get Rudy on for the Rush Limbaugh tribute. and Rudy starts with the Michelle We and veers off as only Rudy can to a story that we're not going to repeat here, right? Because I thought I was going to get the hook on TV. So Rudy finishes, I'm gobsmacked. The story is so inappropriate. And I'm so gobsmacked, and Rudy goes, maybe I should have told that, Steve. I go, I don't know, Rudy. I don't know, Rudy. You already did, for an audience of millions. So thanks.
So this must have been a day or two after the passing of Rush Limbaugh. I'm gonna go find that episode. We're gonna.
I'll get it for you. I think our lawyers sealed it.
Very human. It's a very
This is where
it's a very human story.
Rudy can kind of wander on you on occasion.
It's a very human story.
To close the show, I want to put you both on the spot. Friday night, give us a nugget. Give us something from working together in 2016, but try to make it something new. Maybe it can be a story about either
To make something up.
working together. No, we're only true tellers here, but maybe give us something about 2016. You two were.
I got the best story ever. I got the best.
Okay. And,
I got the best.
all right, Steve.
It's a showstopper.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Right.
So
It's been really terrific.
I've been saving this for my memoir.
So
I'm gonna get a huge advance.
I told the
but I'm
whole
gonna give it up
story.
free. I'm gonna give it up free on Rudy's podcast at 10 o'clock on a Friday night.
There goes.
50 of you still watching. I want you. Okay. So hold it. This is, by the way, it gets back to the trial that we're going through with President Trump. It's Billy Bush weekend. And as Rudy remembers, I come up with this thing with Aaron Klein. We come up with this. We're doing it for Breitbart anyway. We come up I tell President Trump's only locker room talk. And oh, by the way, I talked to Jared. We bring the women that Clinton raped or alleged rape and he sexually abused. And of course, the woman that Hillary Clinton, as a public defender, defended the guy and accused this young woman of basically enticing the guy and shattered her. She was shattered. So we get them all to St. Louis. Trump flies out and no, we're getting ready to fly out. Everybody abandons us. Everybody. The only guy that stands in the breach to go on the Sunday shows, the full Ginsburg plus, because is Rudy. So I'm sitting there watching, and it is brutal. Rudy's trying to defend Trump, and I mean they're ripping his face up, and we have nobody else. And he goes show to show, and he's bled out. And I said, God, this guy is one of the greatest men I've ever met. I hope that I inspire somebody like Trump did for him as friendship, because this had to be friendship. It wasn't even beyond politics. So we're sitting in the plane, and Rudy's flying out to St. Louis with us that morning after doing this. So Rudy gets in the plane, and he's sitting there. President Trump, he had the table, and on the plane, and President Trump's reading his papers, and I always lean over the next seat next to him, and Rudy would always sit right cat a corner and look at him. Gets on, nothing said. We're getting the plane loaded. Trump looks and goes, Rudy, you're a baby. Now sitting there, I'm thinking he's going to say the greatest thing. No, he goes, Rudy, you're a baby. You're like a little baby. They come and take the pacifier from you. Weren't you going to say? I said, Mr. Trump, no offense.
He was kidding.
This was okay. This was the greatest defense I've ever seen.
Yeah,
he's like, Rudy, I saw you on all five of them. I said this is the greatest defense. He was kind of kidding, but
he was kind of kidding.
You
thanks me for it all the time.
No, I tell you,
but
that was the greatest single. It was the full Ginsburg plus. Because I think you did 6 that morning. By the last one, you were totally.
They also walked your ladies in that night.
The day, yeah.
No, because you wanted them in particular seats so that Hillary and Bill could see them.
This okay. So my memo is going to be worth nothing now. But here we go.
So,
hang on.
So when he arranged this, everybody. Look, a lot of people were nervous about this.
Well, hang on.
Most of the pussy wushies were nervous about it.
Hang on. Let's go.
How could Bannon do this?
So hold on. We get there, and President Trump still didn't know about this. Only Jared.
Wow.
Only Jared. Because I didn't want it to leak out. So we go to President Trump, and we got him showing up, and they're in a side room, and we've told the media we're doing debate practice, which theoretically we're upstairs in the penthouse. Remember, all those people are up there.
I remember. Yeah.
And finally, I told Jared, I said, we got to pull the trigger now. He goes, fine. So we go talk to Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump's leaning against the thing because he's kind of away from the crowd. They're all going through debate prep. There's 50 people there, right? Popping with questions. And I walk up to him. I said, look, we've flown all the women out here that he raped or abused, plus the thing. And And he's going to, the ones that have been self-identified, there were 6. He's leaning, and I go, we're going to take the service elevator. We're going to go down. We open up. We're going to go in the room. It's got a table with green cloth on it, 6 microphones. You're going to spend some appropriate time getting to know them, hear their stories, a few minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, boom, greet them, hear what they have to say. And then I've got all the media in the room. They're waiting to talk to you for the last debate practice. We're just going to open the door and let them in, and we're going to hit them with both barrels. I go, do we have your permission to do it? His eyes are closed. He goes, I love it. So hold it. We go down and spring the trap, and these guys walk through. And the first thing that comes through, Paula Jones goes, he raped me. Because they come across with the Trump is okay for you to grab them by the, and all of a sudden, boom. And these women go off. So hold it. We got a better one. So then we go back and we regroup. And of course, the guys that were not actually fighters are like shocked. How could you possibly do that? Of course, the media narrative is changing. So then we have the debate itself. And they have these boxes for what they say is VIP boxes for the family and VIPs. And you have, the way they've got it, you're going to cross. Yeah. So what I've done, Melania and to the Bill Clinton's got to walk a piece of him and like Dookie man, you raped me on global television. We got it. They got the whole thing set. And these guys, because remember, you and I negotiated at Hofstra, where they put Mark Cuban right in Trump's sight to mess with him. Yeah, these guys.
We negotiated that we would get to determine the seat.
Yes, and they lied to us. And so we had them, and they go, oh, no, you can't do this because the box is only for family. And I go, that's interesting you say that because we've seen in your box, you got Claire McCaskill, the senator. Right. I mean, they're just bald-faced liars. I said, screw you. They're going to be there, and they're going to grab a piece of Clinton like they've been trying to grab a piece of him and punch him out. And they literally had a meltdown. So we're ticking like 2 minutes to go, and then we made President Trump. We talked to him, or candidate Trump. You did the last minute switch out.
And I had the honor of having two of them on each arm, and I walked them in the front row. I walked them in because they were afraid of me. Yeah. They knew if they stopped me, I'd tell them no. We had an agreement.
Don McGahn and Rudy saved the day, but
they would have.
This is the great shot. And remember in Drudge with Bill Clinton looking sideways.
Oh,
he was so panicked. He was so panicked.
He walked faster than I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
Walk.
Well,
he saw them and went boom, and then it knocked her off.
It rattled her.
Rattled her 15 or 20 minutes.
The other thing,
because she looked like Biden.
Rudy was the debate prep coach. The other thing was we always had him just shadow her, right? Don't do what the guy did in New York. Don't get in her space, just shadow her. So at the back of her eye, she was jiggy all night, right? She never got her balance. Trump dominated.
She kept looking over.
Yeah.
She kept looking over.
That was one of the greatest moves in
remember she ran the bimbo squad,
bringing those women out.
She knew more about them than we did. She ran the bimbo squad.
Here's the point. Trump had locker room. This is how good Trump is. Remember, first we named it locker room banter. He said, it's not banter. No, nobody knows what banter is. It's talk. Locker room talk. Locker room talk. Hold it. It's locker room talk versus a guy that's a sexual predator that the system has protected and Hillary Clinton protected and all those feminists protected for decades and decades and decades. The American people know that. You just got to bring it out. You just got to bring it out and have people see it.
That's right. Look, we have two of the best minds in American politics. We could stay all night. However, I'm sure we all got to get to Friday night. We've all got
good enough story.
Got to keep up the fight.
I enjoyed it, and And let's hope.
We'll talk about the negotiation we had at Hofstra where we got rolled. They loved them. Rudy and I got rolled, and Trump once again. Are you guys babies? He walks out, and Cuban's right there, and we told him, "Hey, I think we got it." And the guy's light was put Cuban right in front of him. First, are you guys babies? You just go there and they just take. You're trying to negotiate.
I'm trying to rallied by Mark Cuban. Come on.
They wanted that on that one. They wanted a box for her to stand on. And we told them that if she got a box,
Rudy's telling
if she got a box, we get a box. So stupidly, they agreed to the first round. So she was going to get a 3-foot box, and he was going to get a 3-foot box. So then they said, well, she needed a higher box, and I said, well, we need a higher box. And all of a sudden, they figure out that Trump is going to be up.
Yeah.
Trump's going to be up on the ceiling by the time they finish. We all got back
been
down.
getting ready for presidential debates since she was 6 years old.
Right.
Okay. 6 years old. She's supposed to be the greatest debater the Democrats have ever had, right? He chopped her up.
Oh, God.
Now you tell me,
But she's not-
Joe Biden. You tell me Joe Biden. Of course, she's a stiff. But you tell me Joe Biden. He's going to own Joe Biden. Joe Biden will never take the stage with him. He can't. He'll be.
I
he'll be
worry.
humiliated.
I wonder about that too.
Could
They said he is.
now that
He does say
They say-
he's
they say-
no,
they're
Joe
gonna hit-
says
they-
he's gonna do it. Joe has said the last few. I'm not.
Okay.
I mean,
He doesn't remember.
but he has. How does he get out of that?
Donald J. Trump will bench press
Oh.
Joe Biden in global TV. That's why he won't get up to do it. I don't think.
Right.
Well, it was very nice.
Hidden Crime Family comes out during the.
It's very nice to
Biden
have
Crime
you
Family
here
comes out
tonight.
during the convention.
You have any vanilla ice cream?
Is this your imitation?
Uh,
Is this your impression? Is this your impression?
That is an impression. Yeah.
That's impression.
I don't understand.
That's
I
I'm
don't
gonna
understand.
go out on a big note.
I don't know
Next
how.
time, I'm demanding makeup, lighting, hair,
Hair.
maybe a cup of coffee. or water.
the hair is fine.
How about a water? No, hair and makeup. I mean, what? Do I get a water? Did I get a cold water next time?
What do you think that is?
Last time I came here, I lost 15 pounds sweating on your deck. At least we're indoors.
What a complainer. Huh?
Yes, I'm always whining. Always. Mayor, we love you.
We thank you very, very much for listening in. God bless the people of Israel. God bless the people of the United States. And God bless America.
Yeah.
To bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply